Yes, you're listening to the Total Cricket Podcast. I hope you're having a good one. Sachin here, as always, to take you through the latest happenings in the world of cricket. And today we're putting the third ODI between England and the West Indies under the scanner. The second ODI, there was no result. There was only 2 overs bowled. And the main news to come out of that was that Chris Gale tweaked his hamstring, wasn't in the 11, but he did come back in for this game. I'll start with the team news. England, they were unchanged. The West Indies, as I mentioned, Chris Gale coming back into the team, and also Kesrick Williams, he dropped out in the second ODI for Miguel Cummins, and in this game, Cummins retained his spot. Now let's get into the recap, and West Indies, they won the toss and elected to field on an absolute belter of a surface at Bristol. That didn't work out too well for them. England getting a whopping 369 for 9 in their 50 overs. They got off to a fast start, but then lost a few quick wickets to find themselves 74 for 3. Joe Root and Ben Stokes then stabilised the innings with a 132-run stand for the fourth wicket. Both of them got half centuries, but again, they lost a flurry of wickets to find themselves 217 for 6. The run rate was really good, but they had to be careful of keeping wickets intact. But Moeen Ali threw caution to the wind. He got the second fastest century by an Englishman in ODIs. An incredible performance from Moeen Ali, one of the best innings you will see. He put on an absolute clinic in power hitting in this one. The West Indian bowlers, they got taken to the cleaners, quite frankly. All the fast bowlers went for over 7 and over, although I thought that Miguel Cummins with 3 wickets and Jason Holder with 2 wickets were bowling pretty well until that Moeen onslaught at the end. Devendra Bishu was actually reasonably economical given the circumstances, but he only bowled the 5 overs. Ashley Nurse, he got carted around as well. Rovman Powell, with his part-time medium pace, was the most economical of the bowlers, bizarrely. He picked up a wicket as well. But at the halfway mark, you thought, unless Chris Gale and Evan Lewis went off, that this game was only heading in one direction. But Gale made England sweat a little bit with a breathtaking 94 off 78. But his run-out was the turning point of this innings. They were going along very nicely at 176 for 3. They were staying on track in terms of the run rate, but then losing that power from Gale, exposing a relatively weak middle order was their undoing, and they weren't able to capture the momentum again after his dismissal in the end, falling miles short of the target, 245 all out, although I commend them for giving it a good go. The English bowlers, I thought, did a good job for the most part. Chris Woakes, I thought he was decent, although he went wicketless. David Willey got smashed around, again going for over 8 and over, just the 4 overs for him. Liam Plunkett was the star of the show. He picked up a 5 for. Moeen Ali didn't have a great day with the ball. The West Indies gave him a taste of his own medicine. Ben Stokes, he didn't bowl too much. Adil Rashid, excellent as always. He picked up 3 wickets. And that was all she wrote for this one. Now let's get into the breakdown, and I'll start with the England innings. Johnny Bairstow coming off the back of that 100. Again, he looked good, but then he got a big leading edge off Jason Holder, and he took the return catch. He'll be disappointed with that Johnny Bairstow, but as I said, he needs to be given a run in the team. He's already shown what he can do. Hopefully, he can continue to perform and cement this spot at the top of the order for England. Alex Hales, again, looked really good, 36 off 35. He'll be very disappointed again that he could not go on with his start. He was trapped in front by Miguel Cummins. The ball seemed back in quite a way. Hales didn't adjust for it, given not out on the pitch, but it was overturned on DRS. Joe Root, 84 off 72. As usual, Joe Root, fantastic, mixing finesse with power. This was an exhibition in ODI batting. You don't have to hit a lot of sixes. You don't have to try and hit every ball out of the park to score quickly. He's such a good timer of the ball, Joe Root. We know how good he is against the fast bowlers with that typical back foot punch of his off his legs as well. And against the spinners, he'll use his feet very well. Class act, Joe Root. And he has now the most international runs in a season in England. Incredible achievement. 1,342 runs this season across formats for Joe Root at an average of 61. 300s, 950s. And that right there is the only criticism I have of him. He should have more hundreds to his name. He's only got 300s this year. And I say only because I put very high standards on him, given he is one of the best batsmen in the world. He has to work on that conversion rate. Once again, here, he just got out. Very similar dismissal to the Hales one from Cummins, nipped back in. He played across the line, little lapse in concentration. It's very difficult to put your finger on exactly what's going wrong for Joe Root. There's no one way that he's getting out in the 70s and the 80s, but maybe it's just a mental thing. If he can get over that, wow, he'll be unstoppable, but still an incredible achievement for Joe Root this summer. Owen Morgan, he's had a terrible series so far. He's got just the 12 runs across the 3 innings he has played in both the 2020 and the ODIs. He got a golden duck here, and it was a very typical dismissal for him. Holder angling the ball across him, going for a nothing shot really, just trying to dab it down to third man. Such a risky shot given that the West Indies had put a slip in there specifically, and he got an edge through to Shea Hope. Owen Morgan has been excellent for England as a captain. He's completely transformed this ODI team. But as a batsman, he has been very patchy. He's had some excellent spells at the start of this year. If you remember, he was very good in India, in the West Indies, but then in the Champions Trophy, he had mixed results, and now here at the moment, he is out of form. He needs to be a little bit more consistent, Owen Morgan. I don't think his place in the team or his captaincy is in question, but I feel like he should be doing more as the captain of this team, batting at number 4, such a pivotal position in the lineup. That's his big technical weakness. Teams are exposing it time and time again. He has to work on that because it's just getting too easy now with Owen Morgan outside the off stump. Ben Stokes at his exhilarating best, 73 off 63 for him. The classic aggressive approach from Ben Stokes. Didn't have much regard for the bowling, sent them to all parts. He'll be disappointed, like Joe Root, that he didn't quite go on with it. He probably should have got 100, but he held out in the deep off the part-timer Rovman Powell. But we know Ben Stokes, such an explosive player. Hardik Pandya, incredible talent. But I think Ben Stokes is still the king when it comes to X Factor. Changes games with both bat and ball time and time again. Josh Buttler, he'll be disappointed with this one. Just managed the 2. Miguel Cummins had been bringing the ball in all day, and Buttler played for that seam movement in, but this ball actually held its line a little bit and took his off stump out. Josh Buttler isn't the most technically proficient player. We know that. That's why he's not a fixture in the Test team, despite the incredible talent that he has. He's a guy who can hit sixes at will. He can play 360. Incredible player in this era. Perfect player, given the way the limited overs formats are going. Can't read into it too much. This was his first innings of the series. Moeen Ali, wow. Take a bow. One of the most breathtaking innings you will see from Moeen Ali. I thought the way he went about this innings was absolutely first class. He was on 39 off 39 at one point, and he had to be a little bit cautious given the fact that there were still so many overs left when he came to the crease, but England found themselves in a place where they needed to preserve their wickets for a little bit more to maximize their potential. So that's what he did. He was a little bit more cautious up front, but then once he got set, Chris Woakes was there with him. They were building a good partnership. It was time to launch, and boy, did he launch. As I said before, the second fastest century by an Englishman in ODIs came off just the 53 balls. From 39 off 39, he then went on to score 61 runs off his next 14 balls. Incredible, including 8 sixes in those 14 deliveries. It was as if he was playing stick cricket in real life. It was just like a video game on the easiest difficulty. Absolutely unbelievable from Moeen Ali, taking the West Indians to the cleaners. Mind you, the West Indians made it very easy for him, serving up some absolute pies. But you still have to hit them, and Moeen put on an exhibition. And once again, he proves himself as an excellent cricketer. This is a guy who is so underrated. At the start of the summer, he was looked on as a potential liability in this English setup through the test matches and now into the limited overs legs. He has proved his worth. He's one of the more indispensable players in this lineup. He's such a talented batsman down the order. What he can bring, he's got all the shots. He can make you pay. Coming in 6, 7, 8, he can change a game with his free-flowing hitting. And sure, he's not an elite bowler, but he can certainly do a job with the ball. He's a very good all-rounder, Moeen Ali. He's had an incredible summer, and I think this guy needs to start getting the recognition he deserves as one of the most consistent performers in the game these days. Chris Woakes did a good job. This is what he brings at the number 8 position. He's a very solid batsman, 34 off 34. Did exactly what he needed to do. Gave the strike to Moeen Ali when he was going and sat back and enjoyed the show. Excellent work from Chris Woakes. He too was a little bit cautious at the start when England were trying to keep wickets intact. Great game awareness from him, I thought. This innings pretty much summed up this English ODI team. In the last 3 summers, batting first, they've managed 300 plus on 11 occasions. This is a stacked batting lineup with power hitters who can score big runs on pretty much all occasions, particularly given the pitches they find these days are very batting friendly. This is their formula. They like to score big in the first innings and just choke you in the chase. The West Indies bowlers, they found that out firsthand. They got an absolute drubbing. As I said, very batting friendly surface, so you have to take that into account. But if you pitched the ball in the right areas, there was something there. There was a tinge of green, some green patches on the pitch. It wasn't like there was nothing there. I thought the West Indies bowled very poorly. Not to mention their fielding was nothing short of a joke. Chris Gale dropped a sitter. Marlon Samuels, very lackadaisical in the field. Ashley Nurse, I think he dropped 3 catches, 2 of them off his bowling, including an absolute sitter. I think the general sense of apathy just spread through the whole team. They were very, very poor in this game, the West Indies. We saw all that was wrong with West Indies cricket. A lack of energy and skill in the field is top among that list. But the bowling certainly didn't do itself any favours. Jerome Taylor, as I've said, he bowls so many 4 balls. Yes, he's a good bowler, but I'm wondering whether he's past it now. He's 33 years old, and he does take wickets, but he goes for so many runs, throws up a lot of half volleys, and then if he changes it up, he can bowl it wide, short. He bowls it all over the place, Jerome Taylor. He has to get a little bit of discipline into his bowling. Jason Holder, I thought he had a good start bowling up front. Did very well getting Johnny Bairstow and then Owen Morgan. His figures got ruined by Moeen Ali at the end. Holder couldn't deal with the pressure. It reminded me of that World Cup game against South Africa where he got taken to the cleaners by AB de Villiers in that incredible onslaught. Very similar situation here, but I have sympathy with the bowlers in that situation. You're on a hiding to nothing. The batsman is hitting every ball you bowl to the boundary. You just think, what are you supposed to do? So hopefully Jason Holder can just forget about that one. Miguel Cummins, very similarly, got absolutely taken apart by Moeen. But before that, I thought he was decent. He was getting some nice seam movement with that front-on action of his. He tends to get the ball to nip back in, and that's how he accounted for Alex Hales and Joe Root. But I still have question marks over whether he is up to this level. He had zero control virtually throughout this innings. Apart from those occasional good deliveries, could not get any control on the innings, Miguel Cummins. Devendra Bishu, once again, underutilized by Jason Holder. I always think, why is he being picked if Holder doesn't particularly want to use him? He favoured Rovman Powell over Bishu. Bishu wasn't particularly bad. He only went for just over 6 and over. In this innings, that was actually not too bad, although he wasn't able to keep the batsman on strike, just the 7 dot balls, so the runs were just flowing off Devendra Bishu. Again, he doesn't have a great deal of variety, rarely bowls the googly, and as such he's quite predictable, a lot more predictable than a lot of other wrist spinners, and I don't think his pace is quite quick enough. I think he's a little bit too slow through the air for my liking. Ashley Nurse, well, he got absolutely carted. I'm not a big fan of Ashley Nurse. I don't see why he should be in this team. They'll be hoping that Sunil Narayan decides to come back to ODI cricket very soon. Off spinner, who barely spins the ball. He doesn't offer anything, I don't think. There's no variety. You're just asking to be hit. On a flat surface, the ball's not doing anything. It's asking to be hit. I just don't see how he's the best option for the West Indies at the moment. Rovman Powell, he did quite a good job with his medium paces. Admittedly, he bowled at the best time, mainly during the period where Wokes and Ali were rebuilding the innings. But he did get Ben Stokes out, and he did quite a good job, admittedly. I think he'll get more overs in the next few games. The West Indian batting, this was a very difficult situation for them. They had to be ultra aggressive from the get-go, and I like the fact that they gave it a good go. It was always going to be extremely difficult to get even remotely close to this target, but I thought that they tried, and that was something. You can't just give up straight away. You have to at least try to win the game. I thought that was a good thing for the West Indies, a small victory, if you like, from the game. Chris Gale, at his best, 94 off 78, hitting bombs down the ground. We know when it's in his arc, he's going to hit you out of the park. The issue for the West Indies is how long is Chris Gale going to be around? He's a big boost returning to this team at the top of the order, but I'm thinking he is not going to be playing international cricket much longer. Who knows when he's going to announce his retirement? He's struggling with injury issues, and I'm sure he would love to prolong his career to play for many more years in the franchise T20 tournaments around the world. So that is a concern for the West Indies. His dismissal really killed the game, I think. Another run out for Chris Gale. He was run out in the 2020. I think he should stop trying to run quick singles. It's clearly not working for him. I don't think he's going to change at this point in his career. Evan Lewis, once again, couldn't get it together in an ODI. Spooned one to mid-wicket off Peter Willey. I don't think it was short enough to pull. Evan Lewis still cannot quite transfer his 2020 form into the ODI arena. I think he still plays it as if it's a 2020. And I don't think that's going to work for him long term. You need to be able to play a longer innings in this format. And as such, I think he needs to temper his game a little bit if he wants to be more successful in ODIs. Shai Hope looked excellent again, some breathtaking cover drives, but then went for one too many and nicked off from Liam Plunkett. But I like Shai Hope being promoted to 3. He's the future of that West Indian batting. So I think it's just a matter of leaving him there, letting him grow. Marlon Samuels, he'll be disappointed again not to get many. This time, he didn't soak up as many dot balls, but he only managed the 11 runs. He got a feather through to Butler from Plunkett. It was a wild hack from him. A little bit of a bizarre shot. It was overturned by the DRS. Marlon Samuels at the age of 36. I don't think he has a lot longer to go in his career. Hasn't performed very well in the last year. If you think of since that World T20 final where he was man of the match, he hasn't done anything for the West Indies. I don't like his attitude in the field. I think it's a bad effect on the team, what this team is trying to do, trying to change. I don't quite like that either. So, much like Chris Gale, I see Samuel's return to the team as a short-term one. Jason Mohammed, he did an okay job, but he couldn't quite get going. West Indies needed to keep the rate up, and he could not do that. 38 off 53, as I've said before, not the best power hitter, Jason Mohammed. If you look at his 2020 record, he has a strike rate of less than 100. That's a bad sign. That shows that he doesn't quite have the power to his game, and that's why in a position like number 5, I think you need that power. So, as I said in the last podcast, I feel he's a placeholder for guys like Darren Bravo, Andre Russell, Dwayne Bravo to come back into the fold. Rovman Powell, he only managed the 8 runs. Admittedly, he had to try and keep things going, but he couldn't quite do it against Adil Rashid. He was in a tough spot. So I think I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on this one, although I do want to see more contributions from him to match his potential. Jason Holder, he did a noble job again, as usual, trying to add a little bit of respectability, hit a few meaty blows down the ground, beautiful cricket strokes. Once again, he's no tail ender. I like him coming in at number 7. He can hit boundaries. He bats like a batsman. I think it's good for his development to be playing at number 7. I see this guy as a legitimate all-rounder in a few years' time, but I've said it many a time. The captaincy, this losing team, it's not helping him develop. and I really wonder whether he'll ever reach his full potential. This guy is a good cricketer. He has a good heart. He always gives it his 100%. He never complains. I like Jason Holder a lot. But after him, the rest of the innings subsided pretty quickly. The West Indies decided that they were at least going to go out swinging rather than just trying to nudge closer to the target, reduce the margin of deficit. They thought at least, hey, let's try and win the game. They were bundled out in just the 39.1 overs. The English bowlers, Chris Wokes, did a decent job up front. Didn't get a wicket, although I liked his plans to Gale and Lewis, keeping it back of the length rather than putting it in their arc. David Willey again not doing the business in ODIs. Yes, he got the wicket of Evan Lewis, but he only bowled 4 overs. He hasn't had the trust of Owen Morgan in this series so far. Hasn't bowled anywhere near his full quota in either of the 2 completed games. He went for 8.5 and over in this one. Once again, Gale taking him to the cleaners. Also Shea Hope hitting him for some beautiful cover drives. As I've said, he's a swing bowler, a new ball bowler, doesn't have a lot of pace. And if there is an extravagant swing on offer, he's going to struggle because he pitches it up quite a lot. And on these kind of surfaces, when it's not moving a lot, they're being asked to hit. They're basically half volleys. He's offering the batsman a present, pretty much. That's the issue for David Willey. He's a one-dimensional bowler. I don't think he should be a first-choice player. Jake Ball, Mark Wood, they're struggling with injuries at the moment, but I think England will be looking to bring them back into the fold pretty soon. Liam Plunkett, great stuff from him. Admittedly, a lot of those wickets were at the back end when the game was pretty much over and the West Indies were swinging for the fences and failing quite spectacularly. But a fifer's still a fifer. He's difficult to hit out of the park because of his pace, the bounce he generates. So I think that helped him a lot in this one. Liam Plunkett is a very good bowler for England in ODIs. He's been around for so long, but I like what he offers. He mainly bowls in the middle overs. He's a wicket-taking option in those overs with that pace and bounce. He's a very awkward customer, very difficult to get away, and if you want to go after him, that's at your peril. Often leads to the batsman's downfall. So well done to Liam Plunkett. Moeen Ali, he didn't have a great day with the ball. The West Indies certainly gave him a taste of his own medicine. Was hit for 6 sixes. Nothing happening off the pitch. He wasn't spinning it, and he was just throwing it up for the batsman. Gimme's way too full on this kind of surface. You have to drop it a little bit shorter. I think on a flat track when the ball isn't spinning for you, particularly as a finger spinner. Having said that, perhaps Moeen was just chancing his luck, seeing if the batsman would take the bait and miss Q1, but they didn't. They had so many runs to play with. I guess England could afford that risk. Ben Stokes, he only bowled the 4 overs, as I've said before. The all-rounders that England possess, depending on conditions, depending on the day, these bowlers will bowl differing amounts. Moeen only bowled at 2 overs in the first ODI. This time he bowls 10. That's the luxury that England possesses. Adil Rashid, excellent. Again, he cleaned up the tail pretty nicely. The batsman struggled to pick him with those googlies and leg breaks, getting the ball to rip despite the flat track. That's what I love about the wrist spinner, that even on benign surfaces, they're able to get the ball to talk. His length was appropriate, wasn't too full, dropped it a little bit shorter. I thought he bowled very well, and Adil Rashid is one of the premier bowlers in ODI cricket, I think. But that was all she wrote for this one, and England, they take an unassailable lead in the series. But now we move on to the 4th ODI, that's on Wednesday. I can't see this series going any other way apart from that of England. It's just a matter of whether the West Indies can register a win, I think. Looking at this series for both teams, England probably aren't getting tested as much as they would have hoped, while the West Indies, they're just trying to be competitive and get a settled lineup ahead of the World Cup qualifier next year. That's going to be big for them. I think most cricket fans around the world would hope that the West Indies can get their act together and qualify for the World Cup. But that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, you can check it out on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. The links to all those platforms can be found on the Twitter page. Do let me know how good you think Moeen Ali is and how much longer Chris Gale will be playing for the West Indies. But until next time, thanks for listening, and I'll see you later.